Good morning. Welcome to Bible study. We are continuing to learn about the early church and also learn things about our church. So we're going to begin our time together here in the Sherman Center. The Sherman Center is a hallway that's close to the gym and the commons where we like to play and hang out and spend time together. There are other things that happen behind me here in the Sherman Center. Let me tell you all about it. As you come down the hallway in the Sherman Center, there is a mural of downtown Asheville. And then you'll come to a couple of doors. Behind those doors, you'll find classrooms. These are where many adults in our church and a lot of your parents come each week for their Bible study classes. There's other space in the Sherman Center as well. There is a food pantry that we use to be able to help give food to people in our community who are hungry. And there is a big open space in one of these classrooms where volunteers meet every Wednesday to sort food and to pack them in boxes. The food that our volunteers sort and pack are brought out into our community and given to families and individuals who are hungry and who need food. So two of the things that we do as a church are to gather together to study the Bible and learn about God, and make sure that people in our community have enough food to eat. Now, we've learned how our church helps feed people who are hungry and how we gather together to study and read the Bible and learn about God. Let's hear how the early church did this. But before we hear this morning's story, let's remember the stories we've read so far that help us know how the church began. In the week leading up to Jesus' death and resurrection, Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey. He went to the temple. He had special meals with friends. Jesus was arrested, put on trial, and died on a cross. Joseph placed Jesus' body in a tomb. On the third day, Jesus rose from the dead. For 40 days after his resurrection, Jesus met with his disciples. He told them to wait for the Holy Spirit to come. The Holy Spirit would give them power, and they would go and share good news with all people everywhere. Then Jesus was taken up into heaven. On the day of Pentecost, the followers of Jesus were filled with the Holy Spirit. A great crowd of people gathered. They were from many parts of the world. Peter told them to turn to God and be baptized. Our story begins right after Peter preached to the crowd. On Pentecost, the Holy Spirit had come in tongues of fire. The people heard Peter speak boldly about Jesus. So those who welcomed his message were baptized. That day, about 3,000 people were baptized. And they all devoted themselves to Jesus' friends' teaching. And they devoted themselves to fellowship, to being together, to the breaking of bread and the prayers of God's people. All came upon everyone because many wonders and signs were being done by Jesus' friends. All who believed were together and had all things in common. They would sell their possessions and goods and distribute the money they made to everyone in the community as anyone had need. Day by day, as they spent much time together in the temple, they broke bread at each other's homes and they ate food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having the goodwill of all the people. And day by day, the Lord added to their number those who were being saved. Now let's wonder about this story together. I wonder what made people want to join this group of believers. I wonder what wonders and signs they saw Jesus' friends doing. I wonder what it would be like if everyone had enough of what they needed. I wonder how it felt to share food so that everyone had enough to eat and no one was hungry. I wonder what you have that you could help share with someone who had a need. In our Bible story, we heard how people in the church helped take care of each other. I've shared a few earlier in our lesson, but I wonder if you can think about ways people in our church help take care of each other. In our Bible story, we heard about things that the church enjoyed doing together. I wonder what you like best about our church. Continue to wonder about this story and continue to wonder what it means to be a part of a church. And come back next week as we hear more stories from the Bible of the early church, and more stories about our church and things that our church does. I will see you next week.